You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Be true to yourself. That's right, guys. Welcome to the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Keith Cheatham.
We are coming to you with another fantastic episode this week here on the Red Moon Podcast. We've got so much, and I'm talking, oh my gosh, so much to cover. Of course,
So much.
last week,
Was that the opening quote there? Was that from Mulan?
it was supposed to be, but it probably
It
was
more
not.
like a paraphrase.
Yeah, I
Okay.
paraphrased
You
it.
got to go the full 98 degrees. So be true to your heart. You got to do the full.
Wait,
that's
90
from the original.
I don't remember
98
any
degrees.
quotes from the movie. So
I didn't
was just
remember
checking.
that even.
You don't remember that song playing?
know.
It's from the credits. I mean, it's not actually in the movie.
I thought it was Reflection was the credit song.
That's in the
from-
credits too.
Oh, but
that-
Be True to Your Heart from 98 Degrees?
Yes,
That's in Mulan?
That was written.
didn't
that
know
was
that.
written for Mulan. Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah, that was the credits song. Well, because Reflection is actually in the movie.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
admit, when I was young enough to watch Mulan, I didn't watch the credits. So
I didn't either. I just saw
I just
Christina
remember that being
Aguilera
like a
and
big-
I thought,
yeah.
she's
Yeah.
good looking.
I just remember being
And
that being a
that
big
video is-
song. Well, the original singer wasn't Christina Aguilera. She did the new version.
No, she did the original.
No, I can't pull it.
Pull it up. Pull
yeah.
it. I can. Christina Aguilera did the original Reflection. I know for a fact.
Because me and Miranda, like,
I
'cause
know for
I
a
said the
fact.
same thing, and then I was like, oh, I was wrong.
No,
'cause-
she has a music video,
Mhm.
and she came out with a new version this year because of the movie. But she did the original version, and in fact, I just watched a clip from MTV back when they
Lea
interviewed her.
Salonga.
I don't know who that is, but that is not the original singer. That she maybe did a version of
That's
it.
in the movie when it plays. That's her singing is Lea Salonga.
Well, I'm talking about the one everybody knows.
Uh,
Maybe
that's the version
that's
from
maybe-
the animated film.
that's a fair
is-
argument
yeah.
because with Frozen, everybody knows that
Idina Menzel,
whatever
yeah.
her name is,
even though she
did
doesn't
the
sing it
but
in the
then
movie.
Demi Lovato does a
Yeah.
version of the song
Yeah.
too that more people know because that's on the radio.
Right.
Christina Aguilera made a single after the fact.
But she releases like they made it part of like the viral marketing because that was actually Christina Aguilera's like first huge debut was doing this song because they have a whole video on YouTube about how she could hit
Oh, really?
middle E over.
Well, I'm just talking about the
C
version
or
that played in
something.
the movie. That's why I didn't realize.
Well,
I
wait.
never paid
Here's the
attention
thing,
to-
though: is the version in the movie supposed to mimic the main actress, like her singing it?
Yes,
See, well, then that doesn't count.
that does count because that's the actual
No.
song.
Neil
Because-
says, "Say that lady's name exactly the way you said it the first time."
Lea Salonga.
Oh, so longa.
Solanga.
That's the way it's spelt. I assume that's the way it's. But I mean, that's.
We're
the-
probably butchering the
Yeah.
name. I mean,
But I'm just saying-
we're not Chinese. We don't.
well,
speak
she
it.
was Filipino.
She
but-
There's so much wrong in this podcast already.
Already.
Are you ready?
But yeah,
Are you
like-
willing to
like-
admit that you're wrong though?
No, I'm not.
I mean, we're both right. Neither
a
one
lot
of
of
us
that
are
going
wrong.
around.
Like
Because
the
here's the thing, I
original
don't think of
version written for the
anybody-
movie was sang by her.
But I don't think anybody other than her-
Wikipedia doesn't lie.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
It's only open source.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would know her name. Everybody knows
Well,
Christina
no, nobody would
Aguilera
know her name. But I'm
sang
just
Reflection.
when I hear the song, like I don't like when like I like the actual songs from the movies. Like Aladdin has Michael Bolton did a version of.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
But it's like I don't consider that the
But
official
it's weird.
version.
Okay, and I would agree. I actually would agree with you there. But it's different for I feel like even like the earlier movies, I felt like they picked actual actors and actresses that could sing and they wanted to sing. This one I feel like, especially like with Frozen, you're picking somebody who you have to find like a voice for the character, then you have to find somebody who sings
Well,
the
that's what I'm saying.
song,
She does
and then
the
you have to
voice
find
of-
somebody who
she
like
does the voice in Frozen.
Demi Lovato does.
No,
No,
the
Idina Menzel.
original singer.
Oh yeah,
does
yeah.
the-
yes,
But it's
right,
like
right.
the version of Whole New World that everybody loves is the one from the movie sang
Yes.
by those singers, not
Yep.
Michael Bolton. And that's what my point is. Like with Mulan, I just remember
And
the
I would argue-
original version. I
would
don't
argue
give a crap
that
about the Christina
nobody
Aguilera
knows
version.
the original version sung by that.
They don't know
singer.
the actress's name, but I guarantee you they know the song.
I guarantee they don't. We're gonna bring it up.
I mean, fans of the movie that fight for the songs, I would imagine, know like the actual song in the movie.
And I'm begging to differ. I do. We'd have to put it out there.
I'm not saying which one's more popular.
our
I'm
audience
just saying
members to
I
decide.
don't think people.
Hey, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their own
Oh no,
opinion.
we're
Jesus.
talking. I don't think it got heated. We were just talking.
I mean,
Let's move on with the show.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
here's one thing we can all agree on.
Yeah.
This movie sucked.
That is true.
I mean, Keith, you wrote the review, as you do with all our wonderful reviews.
It's actually a little bit lengthier than some of the other ones because I kind of tore it a new one.
Well, and
I'm ready.
If anything, we've always noticed that your reviews are typically a lot longer
when they're bad,
when they're
movies.
bad movies and they're ripping them.
Yeah.
So it's like absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys. Without further ado, here is our review, finally, of Mulan.
While movie studios begin releasing films to theaters again, Disney has taken up the strategy of releasing their next major film in theaters and on their streaming platform Disney+, for an additional premium fee, of course. With past live-action adaptations of their animated features previously being a mixed bag critically, financially they have all been successful endeavors. Their latest in this string of remakes, Mulan, has been highly anticipated as a live-action adaptation that won't be afraid to do its own thing. Instead of a lifeless carbon copy of the original. Knowing its potential, Disney has offered Mulan to Disney Plus members for the commendably low price of a whopping $30. Because hey, COVID affects the multi-billion-dollar companies too. Is Mulan worth that $30 price tag though? And does it join the exceptional few good remakes, or fail as another abysmal effort? Directed by Nikki Caro, whose most notable works include The Zookeeper's Wife and McFarland USA, Mulan tells the story of a young Chinese woman named Mulan living in Imperial China who disguises herself as a man to take her father's place in the army. Most viewers are well acquainted with the story, if for no other reason due to Disney's previous animated film. Starring Liu Yifei as the titular Mulan, the live-action version doesn't stray as far from the animated narrative as its filmmakers would lead people to believe. True, gone are the musical numbers and Mushu the talking dragon. But the overall story structure and iconic plot beats of the animated film are still there. Only this time, they are way less entertaining. We follow Mulan as she learns as a young girl that she has very powerful chi, the only truly new concept added to the film. But that chi is for warriors, and warriors are sons. So Mulan must suppress her chi and bring honor to her family in the only way allowed to a daughter, by making a match through the matchmaker and getting married. From here on, the plot is more or less the same as its animated counterpart. Mulan makes a mockery of the matchmaker and brings dishonor to her family. Mulan's ailing father is drafted to the army. Mulan steals his sword and armor to take his place. Mulan goes through rigorous training to be a man. Mulan nearly gets discovered while bathing. Mulan causes an avalanche to stop the enemy. Mulan gets discovered and thrown out of the army. Mulan comes back and saves all of China. I would cry spoiler warning, but can they even be considered spoilers if it's the same plot? True, there is an addition of a witch, played by Gong Li, fighting alongside the enemy in this version, and while she is meant to serve as a foil to Mulan, contrasting opposite sides of the same coin, both ostracized for being gifted women, she serves no true purpose in the grand scheme of the film's plot, becoming a waste of time. In fact, all of the new aspects of the film are all wastes of time. The Phoenix added to replace Mushu as Mulan's guardian never serves any purpose throughout the film. Cricket becomes an additional soldier who is meant to provide comedic relief, but is forgotten about halfway through the movie. And the Chi, as previously mentioned, does provide explanation to Mulan's exceptional abilities, but never serves a narrative purpose beyond that. What we get is a rather duller version of the animated movie, with less relatable and likable characters. The film isn't over-the-top nonsense or terrible in the way Aladdin or Dumbo were, but it is boring throughout most of the film, and while pretending to be something new and exciting, only delivers familiar scenes with poor acting and unrelatable and cliched characters. Its only saving grace at all are the fight scenes. Promoted as a more martial arts-oriented action film that would be more historically accurate than the original, the only thing the movie delivers on its promise are the martial arts. Granted, even they aren't anything special when compared to other films in the same genre. Not aiding in this effort were the terrible CGI and lackluster effects, with many scenes looking obviously fake or green screen. Even when the action was good, all it took was one obviously fake Mulan flipping through the air to pull you out of it. Did I enjoy the action, swordplay, and choreography? Yes, I did, but it wasn't enough to save the film, especially when the practical fights are mired by piss-poor visual effects. For a film that tried to pride itself on distancing itself from the cartoon, Mulan strangely couldn't decide between going the full martial arts action route based on the original ballad or following the animated narrative. Homage and nostalgic payoff is one thing, but when every major scene that mimics an animated scene plays the music from the original song in the background, maybe the live-action version should have just had the songs anyway. As is, the film couldn't commit to which vision it wanted, and tried to appease the hardcore fans of the original while luring in the non-fans with promises of something different. Add in its other flaws, and we have a truly unnoteworthy film that isn't the worst live-action Disney has made, but is truly uninspired and not worth your time, or $30. I give Mulan 1.5 out of 4 stars.
All right, I stand corrected. With 29 million views. The original version in the Mulan animated film definitely has way more popularity than Christina Aguilera. Absolutely.
I'm sure back in the 90s when
So
Christina Aguilera was popular.
I'm just saying, I'm giving you the victory. I stand corrected.
I can understand as a middle school aged boy
Wow,
how
I would want
Christina
Christina
Aguilera
Aguilera.
would be the most popular in your pants.
Well,
I mean, in your mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
and like I said
it's
before,
just funny
I don't really
even
know.
watching
So
the music video from her, it's really easy to tell how early in her. I mean, this was like her first like music video ever before she was a household name,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
interesting because you watch it and it's like, yeah, she had some growing up to do. I mean, she was grown.
Huh.
She had some other grown up to do. Okay, but. Anyways, let's get on to the movie review itself.
I wanted to
One
start,
and a half.
Yeah, I wanted to start by saying there's not many movies I'd be willing to pay $30 to rent anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to make me pay $30 to rent a movie, it better be, like, a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
And this was as far from phenomenal as you could get, so.
Yeah.
No,
It's like I'm not even
absolutely.
going to watch it again when it's free. So
No,
I mean, I watched it for free, and I'm still not going to watch it again.
yeah, I watched it twice. So
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
You endured that.
well, I told you I watched
That-
it with my son, and then
How did he like it?
he doesn't want to watch it either.
See? Yeah.
No, like we watched the whole thing, and there's literally not a movie there's not a kids movie that's come out that he hasn't like gotten addicted to. Where
Yeah.
he wants to watch it over and over and over again.
Right.
And then Mulan came out, and it's like
And
I
that
mean,
was
we
the
asked
one.
him. I was like, you can watch anything on my Plex or whatever because I've got a bunch of them organized for kids and stuff too, and he's just like, yeah, I don't want to watch that one again. Like, I mean, seriously.
I
But
wouldn't either.
I watched it a second time in 4K just
Yeah.
to see if visually there was anything that would
Now-
kind of stand out to me.
Cinematography
Yeah.
Yeah.
in certain aspects of the film
Yeah.
were good.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
When it comes to that mixed with the poor CGI,
It
Yeah.
ruins it, yeah.
absolutely
I was
god-awful.
going to state, like, going off your one, it's really kind of too boring for younger kids. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to hold their
Yes.
attention.
That was
It's not really a
two,
kid's movie.
Like my niece Kaylee, who is older, watched it. And she did like it, and she is older, so she could follow it better. But then when I asked her, it's like, well, which one's better, this or the original animated? She goes, oh, the animated. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
even given the choice between the two, while she did like Mulan, she would prefer to watch the animated version because it's still
And
more
that says a
entertaining.
lot too, because a lot of kids nowadays don't really fall for the animated features anymore. All they have is live action, or
Well,
all they
it-
have is
it
CGI.
seems like-
Yeah, yeah.
And the Toy Story kind of movies.
And I was talking to Keith right after he recorded the review because I don't think that this is a worse movie than Aladdin, than Dumbo, than Lion King. I think those are actually all
wow.
worse movies.
Yeah, I agree.
However, I ultimately decided on 1 star for Mulan.
Dang.
I gave it this bad because I am tired. I am sick and tired of Disney getting away with these live action remakes and their feet not being held to the fire, especially. And this is what does it. I hate to get political. I don't want to get political. But the fact is, you look up Lion King, you look up Aladdin. They both hold about 50 to 55% Rotten Tomatoes. This one has a 70+%.
Yeah.
it's
It
not
actually
that
has
good.
a higher rating than Tenet.
Oh wow, that's
It does.
really
On,
bad.
like,
I
audience-
didn't even think about that.
Yeah, or critics score, it has
Wow.
a higher rating
That's
than
really
Tenet.
sad.
That actually
really,
is
Yeah.
really
Audience
sad.
score is a different story. But
Well,
yeah.
and I was going to say, yet again, another instance of where you have a divide with the critics and the users are becoming more trustworthy because, again, they're not falling for this woke agenda. Get woke, go broke is a constant thread through a lot of these new age movies, especially the Disney live action crap that they've shuffled through, our viewing pleasure, and it's not been for our pleasure.
Yeah.
And my problem is that with all of the animated remakes, every single one so far, it's been better to just turn on the original, turn on the animated classic,
Yep.
and watch it. The actual live-action remake has proven to be completely useless, except for the box office.
Yeah.
And I am hoping, because of the $30 premium that they put on this, and with all of the bad rap, with all of the politicking, regardless of the woke agenda
Yeah.
that has in it,
Yeah.
because it's not, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's, completely I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar.
No,
I think
it's not, but-
ultimately, because I mean, I'll be honest with you, I thought for female heroic characters, the original animated version does a way better job.
Yeah. Yeah.
For this character, for this story, and for female leads in general than this film. And in fact, for them to throw in a female antagonist in the middle of this film that
Who
makes
served no purpose.
sense
Yeah.
and completely serves the purpose of just having another female in there to say, we need to have another female presence on that side.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she ends up, spoiler alert, saving the day to save Mulan,
Yeah.
which, again, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, for motives that I still have yet to figure out.
Right, yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing there. It's,
There isn't.
It's like, what was the point of her character, and then what was there's no point to her
I mean,
sacrifice.
the moment that she literally lays her hand on the neck of the main antagonist and pretty much threatens to kill him, saying, like, showcasing she
Yeah.
could kill him in that instance.
She could, but
Why?
And
Not.
the
Yeah.
only reason she doesn't is because she wants to be accepted, and people won't accept her. People didn't accept Hitler until he went and killed everybody, and then guess what?
They had
Through
no
fear,
choice. Yeah.
they had to accept him.
Yeah.
So it made no sense in her motivation, none whatsoever. Even with the redemptive story arc they were
Yeah.
trying to tell, completely pointless, useless. I was bored throughout most of it, and then you have these terrible fight scenes with the terrible CGI.
Yep.
It was just god awful. God awful. It was terrible.
I'm really surprised, but I have given this the highest rating
Yes,
because I gave it 2,
Here's the
Yeah.
thing.
and
I
that surprises me.
I was on the fence and was considering giving it 2 because for me it's not that it's that terrible. Like it's mostly just extremely boring and mediocre. But that's kind of like after Brandon had talked, me and him had talked about it a little bit. I kind of felt where Brandon was coming from. Is like you're kind of. I mean, I'm not so much that I'm willing to give it 1 star, but I was like, I agree. It's like at this point, it's like. Is it worse than some of Disney's other live-action films? No, it is not
Yeah.
worse than Aladdin, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, which was just terrible. It's not worse than any of
I didn't
those.
include that one.
But it's just so mediocre that like you're sick of it, and it's like I'm never going to watch this movie again. I really don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that was the other disappointing thing for me was I also had high hopes for this
Yeah.
one. And after seeing the trailers and after talking about
Well,
it
it
on
was
here,
hyped.
I was hyped.
They
to see
touted
it.
They
it
hyped it.
as being something different. Like we're not
Yeah.
just going to give you a word for word remake, and then
Well, and because I thought with them taking the direction of dropping Mushu, and I was actually okay with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
when I found out that they were going to stick to a more traditional storyline, that they were going to try to make this more mature, more
they
adult.
dropped Mushu and added a Phoenix that
Yeah,
had
and
no
it
point.
oh
Yeah,
gosh,
it
I'm-
looked terrible, by the way.
It
me
did.
and my nephew Hunter, like, because we watched it together.
The
Like
freaking animatronic Phoenix from
Yeah.
Harry Potter looked better than
yeah, he joked about that Phoenix the whole time because he's like, if it wasn't going to do anything, you could have still appeased Mushu fans by having like a Chinese dragon. Like if it wasn't going to talk anyways,
Yeah.
and all it was going to do is fly around, why not have a Chinese dragon fly around and lead her?
Yes.
At least then you could still have like some type of representation of Mushu in there as her guardian. Because at that point, it doesn't matter what it is. It didn't have to be a
I
Phoenix
wanted
because
to
the Phoenix
see-
didn't do
Yeah.
anything.
I wanted to see the Phoenix and the bird fight. I was like, they were setting it up the whole movie. The Phoenix keeps flying in there,
Yep.
showing her the way to go. It's her inner spirit, and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna have this battle,
Yep.
and it's gonna
Never
battle this
happens.
eagle, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be an awesome freaking end. No, she gets shot with an arrow,
Yeah.
and the Phoenix is still just some symbolic piece of crap flying around. It
Yep.
was dumb,
And then,
just
you know,
stupid.
it's funny because even when they did something kind of unique to reference the original movie, like I liked what they did with Cricket. They took it from being an actual cricket to being like that little soldier that was like, they call me Cricket. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny. It's like, that could be good. And he's supposed to be the comedic relief, and then he doesn't show up. Like, he shows up in the background making weird faces, but he never really has a role for the rest of the movie. And I'm like, so what was the point of that other than to assure original fans, we didn't forget about that character. He's just this character
Later
now.
in the movie, they try to like make you think that he's dead.
Yeah,
and it's just you
Literally
they're
for a
trying to give you
second.
this emotional moment
Like,
where
oh,
you're
God,
like, oh, they killed Cricket, and it's just like, who's that? I don't even know who this little fat guy is.
I didn't either.
Like, it's like I don't even remember him.
No, and honestly,
Actually, it's funny because my sister did do that. She went, "Oh, they killed Cricket," and then he got up and she's like, "Oh, he's alive."
yeah, what? And it was so funny because they show him. It's like Frodo in the ring.
Yeah.
They show him dead for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
and you know he's not dead.
Yeah.
but it's like, and that was the whole thing. Is I was like, honestly, I'd be happy with him dying. At least it's one loss for the movie that I could be like, well, this was done well.
Yeah.
And then there were just so many moments that were just set up. Look, apart from the Chi not making any sense whatsoever, I was also disappointed and pissed that I'm like, it made no sense. The entire avalanche scene, when they show her in the midst of the chaos, and there's like maybe 5 different groups that were all huddled together,
They'd
and they
already
were
taken
all
2 of them
banding
out.
together showing
Yeah.
their shields, and they already had one catapult destroy 2 groups, or at least one group and like half of another.
Yeah.
And then she literally runs off at that moment and goes and picks up some helmets and
Sets all that up.
completely gets all the way around them to set up this diversion and to distract them. And I'm like, by the time you had got there, there's no way that anybody would be left.
Well,
no way.
Even besides that, another point on that same scene that bugged me is I was like, you have this whole army that you're shooting this catapult at, knowing they're there. You stop and turn your catapult around and put your backs to the actual army to fire at people that you don't even know it's there. So now you've just like exposed yourself to the actual threat behind you to shoot at.
Kind of made the Emperor's army look pretty stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just
I mean,
underscored.
it's like, how did they conquer all of China in the first place?
Well, they had the witch woman.
Yeah.
She was the
I
one doing
guess.
it. But I do want to point out something where I think most of the failures lie, and I'm gonna direct it back to our screen here, and I'm just gonna show you. You know, when you have a Chinese film that they're trying to honor the Chinese heritage and culture, I don't think you need to give the writing credits to Rick, Amanda, Elizabeth, and Lauren. Probably the most Anglo-Saxon names you could even come up with.
You don't know about Rick. His last name's Jaffa. I mean, there could be,
yeah, true.
He might have. He might not be white.
I'm just sitting
Yeah,
here.
He's not Asian, but he might not be white.
Lauren in Chinese is Roarin', so that is a Chinese name.
Rory.
Yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
Bells of Rory.
That's racist.
I know.
That is racist.
I know, but that's what this movie was trying so hard not to be.
And
but
it
was.
It was. Because, again, you gave it to these 4 white Anglo-Saxons to write, and they didn't do any
so
of their
basically,
homework.
that movie wouldn't meet the new Oscar criteria, would it?
Well, and that's a perfect segue.
The cast
I think.
might.
Oh, yeah,
because,
yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
So
True.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need it. Look, the news dropped last week, and it was huge news. Obviously, it broke just before we went on live, and we didn't see it till after we were done with the show.
that happens.
So, and it used to not happen all the time when it was Thursdays, but oh well. Here it is. But finally, we're going to give you our 2 cents on what we think about Oscars So Inclusive. So let's roll that headline open.
Let me tell you.
That's not the
That's
headline
not-
open.
That's wrong.
Again.
You gotta
I
get
do.
this fixed, man.
You know, if I had not brought up the...
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm going to get it
that's
right
what you
one
said
day.
last week.
That's well, no,
I
that's
know.
that's our thoughts on the topic.
Oh, that
Not
too.
not
Okay.
his not a response to.
I'm going to get it right one of these weeks. I got it right the very first week, and I haven't got it right since. So,
No, I think last week I did the "Are You Not Entertained?" because he
Oh,
kept
yeah.
flubbing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Dance, monkey, dance. I'm here to entertain. But no, we are here to talk about Oscars So White controversy and the fact that for the longest time,
It's back.
this has been incubating in the Academy, and they have finally come up.
Well, every year
with
they
their
have to have a
plan.
cause, and if
Yeah.
there's not a current cause, they have to make one somehow. So it's like, what are we going to defend this year? We don't know. Let's make up a controversy.
Well, and here's the only credit I can give the Academy is that this has been something that has obviously.
Well, they've been stewing on it for a while.
Yeah, this has been stewing for a while, and the fact that, think about it, for I think it was 2 years. It wasn't 2 years in a row. It was like 1 year. It was off a year, and then the very next year it became a controversy.
Yeah.
And then of course there was also the whole gender inclusivity question as well. So finally, the Academy has released last week. They released their entire initiative of trying to add more inclusion to the Oscars and to the Academy as a whole. So that's what we're going to be talking about is Oscars now so inclusive. And I think we can go ahead and bring up there are 4 different objectives. Objective A, B, C, and D.
And it's so long and complicated just to make sure that you have certain things checked off, because they already know like that asking for the specifics is going to be difficult enough. So now they kind of are giving people outs in ways.
Can we
it's just funny,
like
yeah.
briefly
We have
actually
to.
go
Yeah,
on?
I think we
go
have
over
to.
these?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact, I'm going to make sure. Sean, did you pull up the link that I sent everybody?
I'm looking at the list.
Because what I'm
now.
going to go ahead and do, Sean, if you could start reading, I'm going to try to pull up the link on the TV so that
Okay.
people can read along.
So, like you said, there's A, B, C, but there's also A1, A2, A3. So there's different segments to
It's
that.
like a section.
You
So
have
basically
each
like-
objective.
A1 is lead or significant supporting actors. At least one of the lead actors or significant supporting actors is from an underrepresented.
Yeah.
racial
They
or- yeah,
intentionally.
racial group.
Yeah.
So,
Can I,
there we go. We gotta
before we
pull it up
start
here.
getting real deep into it, can I start off by saying that, first of all, there's 4 standards, A, B, C, or D, and you have to meet 2 out of those 4. And then in each standard, you have to get at least 1 or 2 of the substandards. And I know that sounds
Right.
a little confusing, but that's why we're trying to read through them, too, because it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So obviously it's Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Latin X. What is that? Is that new?
Well, don't question
Is that a
it.
new
Just
race?
read it.
Black, African American, Indigenous, Native American, Alaskan, Native, Middle Eastern, North African, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander. Don't forget those. Other
Shiny!
underrepresented race or ethnicity.
So that's the first one.
And
That's the lead.
a lead or significant
significant-
That's
supporting
the
actor.
first substandard
Right.
under standard A.
And then you have A2, which is the general ensemble cast. So pretty much the same, group of people, including you throw in your racial or ethnic group plus LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
So if any of the ensemble cast includes this group of people, then it's considered that's A2. You're completing that objective. So if you completed just A1 and A2, then boom, you've got objective A locked in.
Well, you only have to meet 1 standard on standard A.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so
Oh, wow.
only one of these standards has to be
the
met.
only one that has both is standard C. You have to have.
Well, and now here's the
and,
thing.
and technically D, because D only has the 1.
And
so,
this is why it gets so convoluted, because of all the 4, you have to have 2. 2 objectives have to be
you
met.
have to have 2, A,
And then
B, C, or D.
Within those objectives, there are
Yeah.
certain criteria.
Within
that
A,
have to be
within
met.
A and B, you have to meet 1 of the criteria. C, you have to meet 2, and then D only has 1 criteria. So that one, like, if you're going to get standard D, it has to meet that only criteria.
And we're going to talk about
Yeah.
that at length, but we'll continue through describing.
A3,
A2 is what you have to. You didn't describe that one.
he
Yeah,
did
the general
You
ensemble
did?
cast.
30%
Yeah.
of all actors have to. I didn't hear you say that.
Oh, I did not. No, I did not describe the
okay.
term. So 30% of all actors in the secondary and more minor roles are from at least 2 of the following underrepresented groups. Now, I did mention the groups, but so you have to have
Yeah.
at least 30% in your cast for that to be
See, I
qualified.
misread that at first. I thought it was 30% of people working on the film.
That's
So I'm
later.
sitting there- okay,
No, that's
okay.
another
That's,
objective.
yeah, that's in standard B, I believe. This is just
Okay.
this is just
This is the
actually the
cast.
people that appear on screen.
Yeah.
And then A3 was main storyline / subject matter. The main storyline or lines, theme or narrative of the film is centered on an underrepresented group or groups, which
So basically, standard A revolves around either the story and the plot or the cast.
yes.
Yeah.
That's standard A. Has to be.
You have to get standard A, you have to meet 1 of these criterias as far as having underrepresented people on screen.
And now we move on to standard B here, which is creative leadership and project
team.
So
Yeah.
this is more where you're talking about
behind the scenes.
the behind the scenes, as they consider them the below the line characters. And so, Sean, I don't know if you want to pick up. I guess
That's a long one.
Yep.
But I'll try. It says at least 2 of the following creative leadership positions and department heads: casting director, cinematographer, composer, costume design. That one's going to be easy. Director, editor, hairstylist. There's another one. Makeup artist, producer, production designer, set decorator, sound effects or sound visual effects supervisor, and writer. Have to be from the underrepresented groups: women, racial, ethnic, LGBTQ plus. Is that it?
Yeah.
People with cognitive or physical disabilities.
Yeah, we're going to throw them in there too.
Right.
And then at least one of those positions must belong to the following underrepresented racial or ethnic group. So of those people that are included up here in this section, they still have to have at least one of them, including this section down here. And then we're not going to read through. It's literally the same what they consider oppressed or underrepresented groups.
They're all the same groups.
Yeah.
Then B2 is other key roles. At least 6 other crew/team and technical positions, excluding production assistant, are from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. These positions include, but are not limited to, first AD, gaffer, script supervisor, etc. So basically, just behind the scenes roles have to be fulfilled.
But
by
again, underscoring too that they can't be minor roles.
No,
they have to be. Yeah,
and
very
And I want to come back to this later, but I want to get through the rest of the standards
So
first.
B3 overall crew composition, at least 30% of the film's crew is from the following Now again, you don't have to complete all these, but in order to lock in standard B, you have to at least have
One of those
1,
3.
2, or 3.
Yeah.
So then we move on to standard C, which we're going to start condensing some of this.
Which C is where you have
you
to
have
have
to.
This is
Go on all night.
this is insane. Standard C, industry access and opportunities. So you have to have a paid apprenticeship or internship opportunity for an underrepresented
for one of those
group.
groups. Yeah.
So white people cannot have an internship.
No.
They can, but you have to at least have.
You have to at least have one of these. Okay.
from those.
Yeah,
Got it.
Well,
You
or-
can have like 4 interns.
and a white person can be gay,
Yeah.
or lesbian, or
Yeah.
you
Or
can
a
be an
woman.
LGBTQ
Which
plus.
I have more thought, like actually something that you had said last night. So, but I mean, we'll keep going. And get back to that.
C2 is training opportunities and skills development for the crew. So just being able to kind of show them the ropes and kind of help them in, access the industry.
Because
and
when you
get
hire
in-
people, you don't teach them what they need to know anyway. But
Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And then, of course, finally moving on to standard D, which is audience development. So this is now moving into the post-production crowd. This is even
Marketing.
beyond the
Yeah.
post-production, the marketing aspect of the film.
publicity, distribution,
And, of course, there is only one standard here, or one requirement for the standard, which is representation in marketing, publicity, and distribution.
And this one I think is kind of crazy. It's like you have to have studio or film company and multiple in-house senior executives, and that's what I think is crazy. Is like, so your senior executive for marketing or distribution has to be one of those groups in order to get that. And I'm like, so you're basically now telling people who their executives have to be.
Right.
If they
Yeah,
want to be
yeah.
Oscar eligible.
So
Yeah.
if you're white, we can't hire you for this position because
Right.
it has to be one of these.
Well,
That's
if
not
you,
racist.
No, you can, but again, it's either that percentage or
Well, this one doesn't have a percentage.
No,
This
no,
just
no,
says-
right. It's not excluding white people. It's just that if you don't have,
But if
can
you don't
still
have,
have-
then you don't qualify.
then
right?
yeah, you don't qualify.
You can
Right.
have multiple in-house senior executives, but at least one of them has to be from one of those underrepresented categories.
Wow.
My thing is, Brandon had mentioned this last night, and I agree. What happens if you have somebody who
Well,
like,
well,
okay,
hold on, before we even say that, just real quick, because I want to note, because I know what
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
say, and I agree. But here's the thing: all of these standards are going based off the requirement that any production house that wants to put forth a movie for Best Picture.
Yeah.
And again, these are all, that's the other thing to underscore. These are all standards for if you want to be nominated
eligible for an Oscar.
and eligible for a Best Picture winner.
okay.
This is strictly for Best Picture.
Yeah.
No Best Picture winner will now be included or win should it not have at least two
Right.
of these standards. But the fact is that there is an envelope that is given by the production company to the Academy that discloses which of these standards they complete and how they completed it.
Yep.
So now you actually are documenting the inclusivity by documenting all of the different racial, ethnic groups, the sexual orientation of your workers. I mean, at some point, I'm just like,
This is Nazi Germany.
yes.
Oh,
That's what it sounds
and that leads
like.
into the
It's
point I was about.
insane.
That leads into the
Show
point
me
I was
your
about to
papers.
make is what if you have somebody? So you have somebody who's transgendered who identifies one way and only wants to be
Identified as a woman.
But it's like because you have to have a transgender person as your mind. Do you out them like in your envelope and say, well, they identify as a woman, but they're really a man because we need to show that transgender person fits our criteria. So now you're outing people that don't want to be outed.
I thought transgender
Wow.
people are the sex they identify as. So theoretically, by that alone, you can't have but only lesbian and gays be represented or bisexuals because transgendered people are the sex they say they are. So by their own logic, how can you consider that to be an inclusive effort? Because they themselves would say they're a woman if they are a woman. So now you just have an actual normal woman working on your set.
Yeah.
But again,
But women are underrepresented, so that's okay.
Well, okay, if it was a
Well-
woman that identified as a man, she couldn't count as part of their
Correct.
inclusivity because white
Correct.
men don't count.
Right.
Or does she count because you're outing her as having once been a
well,
woman?
and then at what point does it become so convoluted that you're like, well, she identifies as a man, so she is a man, so it's a he. He's a man, but now he's also black, so it's okay because he's got that. I mean, do you get double points
If you're transgender,
if
you're
a
in.
transgender black
You're
person?
in. Like there's no, you get it no matter what. It's like automatic. Like I mean, from
but this
the way
is-
you just said it, there's no way to exclude them.
Right.
Like you're
Right,
going to be
exactly.
included no matter
right.
what.
The ultimate problem with this, though, is that now you'll have studios who want to win Best Picture focus more on making sure they check off these diversity angles than making sure they make the best movie.
Right.
And what's going to happen is in a few years when you have another Dark Knight scenario where the best film that everybody loves can't be nominated because it doesn't meet all the criteria,
See-
people are going to be like, well, how come
it's
that
funny.
didn't get nominated? It's clearly the best picture.
While I do think that is going to be the majority argument that's being raised here, I ultimately think it's kind of the opposite. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see these people who oblige the Academy, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll get in line. You know, Hollywood is obviously one of the farthest leftist leading
Oh yeah.
places out there, especially in the arts. But the fact of the matter is I think what you're going to have is actually the opposite, which is you're going to have productions now look at these standards and instead of trying to be exclusive or inclusive, what they're going to try to do is just say, well, how can we best get the story we want to tell and check these boxes off, enough boxes to get us the nomination that
choose
we're
the-
looking
So you're saying
for.
it's not really because they want to be inclusive,
Right.
it's because they have to be. So they're going to minimize the amount of inclusivity that they use.
And that's another
just to get
problem
by.
is they'll choose the easy ones like B, like with the behind the scenes people, or
Oh, yeah.
because you only have to have two of the standards.
That's what I was saying the
so
other
they'll
night.
choose
30% of the people building the set are Hispanic. And I'm not. That's not a racist statement. That's a serious statement. But I'm just
not
saying.
only that, but
there you go. You met that one.
I don't know one damn production designer that may not be gay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's like
Hairstylist,
I'm just
makeup.
saying. Come
Yeah.
on, you
Costume
can't tell me
design.
that these
So they're
people
gonna-
don't already
Yeah.
have a safe haven
I'm
in
sure,
Hollywood
that's right.
anyway.
But they're going to choose the easier ones to mark off anyways. The ones that are just trying to get by and that don't care about the inclusivity anyways.
One of the questions that this raises to me is, what about the next Spike Lee film? Is his film, because there's no white representation on here, so
No, of course not. No, there doesn't
are
have to
his
be.
films that have an entirely black cast, and you know that probably everybody working on set is either in a lower position if you're white. I'm just saying that's the guy that he puts black forward, and that's fine if he wants to make his films that way.
well, that would hit
But
standard A. He would qualify for standard.
Well,
the
yeah, I
Five
know.
Bloods would.
I know. I'm just saying, but
What you're
isn't
saying
his
is-
movie racist because it doesn't include?
no, because again, the way, but like you said, and that's where they're drawing that fine line.
Is it underrepresented,
underrepresented-
everywhere or underrepresented in the film?
Those groups. It's specifically those groups that they mark.
That's crazy.
Those marks right there that they put down are the underrepresented groups.
Yeah.
If you're not in that group, then you cannot be considered underrepresented.
The Five Bloods would hit standard A because it doesn't matter if there's any white people in there; they're not an underrepresented group.
I know, but
Well,
they're
see,
underrepresented
but
in that
see,
film.
It doesn't
here's-
matter.
But here's my thing. So what happens if you have a year where how many movies you could still have 10 nominations, I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
So if you still have 10 nominations for Best Picture, what happens if all the Best Picture ones that people vote for happen to only complete the criteria of like C and D? where it's all the behind the scenes people. And there's still an Oscar so white controversy because all the ensemble cast and all the main actors are not people of color.
Well, then they'll go
If
back to the
that's
drawing
case,
board to see how they can
they'll
fix
redo
the
them.
yes,
problem.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so and that's my point, is this doesn't do anything other than try to include more people, but really what it does is just you're creating your Mac that doesn't exist in hopes of changing something that is a farce.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. This is not a problem within Hollywood. It never has been. If all it has to be done is if you say it's an issue and you talk to people in the Academy, then that's where you're going to have your best effort of fighting this.
Yep.
The fact is that nobody but the Academy themselves, I mean, they're the ones that are shooting themselves in the foot. They're the ones who are creating these standards saying that we as an organization need to change. And the last time I checked, you're the most leftist-leaning organization out there. So how are you the most racist, too?
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
Because it's systemic. It's everywhere.
Even in the system they built.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's ironic about this.
I'm telling you.
That's exactly what is ironic.
I'm going to be
about
honest
all
with you,
this.
really. Reading these, the only one that I really, absolutely think is completely just inexcusable is the main story and subject matter one.
Yeah.
And I understand you can get around that one by
Yeah.
completing some of the other check marks.
Yeah.
But to me, to think that an artist or a writer has to make their storyline or subject matter based on one of these underrepresented groups is ridiculous.
I agree.
Because if you're making a movie about World War II, I'm sorry, but there weren't a lot of black people that fought in World War II. There was some, but not a lot. The Germans were white. The Jews were basically white. I don't see them on here.
Well, of course.
They're not on
they're
here.
not an underrepresented
But I'm just
group.
saying, Saving Private Ryan could not have
everybody
been
in Hollywood
made
is a
under
Jew.
this under this one guideline. So I'm just saying that to me, that the artist has to write their story around these things.
Well, and again, I don't
is
think
ridiculous.
and that's what they're going to say. You don't have to.
Well,
They're
I
gonna
know
say,
that's why
but
they gave
again,
the other options.
It's an automatic in, and that's my problem. Is you're creating gateways for people to include these underrepresented groups that you call them. You're making ways for them to be included only so that they automatically have an in to your biggest prize in the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have movies, and this does go back to the heart of the Dark Knight issue.
Mm-hmm.
The heart of the Dark Knight issue is that, well, it was a popular film, and it was the highest grossing film that year, but yet it didn't win, or it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. And so people were absolutely mystified, because how could a hugely popular film like that completely be outcast, especially because it wasn't just a Marvel Best Picture
Right.
winner. It wasn't, oh, this is just some roller coaster theme park ride like Martin Scorsese
No,
would
it
say.
actually had-
It had substance.
Yeah.
It had all the hallmarks of what a
it had
Best
an
Picture
Academy
winner
Award-winning
would have.
actor.
Yes. And so you're sitting here in this situation where the reason the outcry happened on that end was because the movie itself, the actual fundamental content of the film, was warranted as Best Picture worthy.
Yeah.
This you're saying because it meets this criteria
Yeah, it's Best Picture.
that it's
worthy.
Best Picture worthy, which is absolutely insane. It makes no sense whatsoever. None.
So Mulan, a movie that we kind of agreed around 1.5 to 2 stars.
Yeah. Trash.
Terrible acting, terrible story,
Yeah.
terrible writing. That movie would be a Best Picture winner.
It could be
Well, it'd
included.
be eligible.
It would be
Yeah.
And that's my question is, so what happens if you literally have all these movies that are eligible, but then none of them win?
Well, one of them has to win.
But what if the one that happens to win is the one that happens to only meet criteria
That's what
C
I'm
and D?
wondering
Yeah.
is the
Well, then you
Academy
got more
going
outrage,
to
yeah.
are they going to vote for the one that has the most
Right.
check marks?
Representation?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how does that's your criteria for being eligible? But then, what's the criteria for people voting? Are they going to actually honestly vote on, well, we think this is the best movie, or are they going to do like Moonlight and vote on the movie they feel is the movie that its message needs to be heard right now? And it's
Yeah.
that's not what this is. This isn't which message needs to be heard the most. It's which film is the best film of the entire year.
Right. I mean, I think you add these kind of rules and restrictions in any other kind of, in academia, in sport. I mean, the problem is that when you start creating rules in the middle of a game, it kind of makes it harder to play regardless of what side you're on. And the fact is like, I don't know of one person in those so-called underrepresented groups who want to solely be included because of that being who they are.
Right.
I thought the whole argument
whole point is
that you are this person, and you as an individual are that is just part of who you are, but that doesn't make you who you are.
Right.
And if that's the case, if you're going to go along with that full fundamental argument, then you can't create a special set of rules that make you stand out above anybody else because of that identifier.
How's that going to...
That's wrong.
Yeah, that's that. And the thing that this is creating is racism.
Yes.
Because this is not at all going to make people sympathetic to your plight. If you're taking advantage of something, or if you're being given something just because of the underrepresented group you fall in, you no longer... First of all, you're no longer underrepresented.
Right.
I mean, when are they not going to be underrepresented?
Right.
You know, at some point they're going to have to be represented.
Right. Well, because at what
and
point,
then we won't need this anymore.
Well, I mean, the thing is we're sitting here talking about white heterosexual Christian males, and I'm like, but you could easily start trying to find, and this is what happens when you tear, down society to these very tribal instincts. It's like, well, now you have tribes that splinter off into these identifiers that now will be, okay, well, if that isn't going to let me get ahead, well then, I mean, who's to say that we don't have these white males that come in and say they are gay?
Yeah.
Who's to say that they're not going to say they identify this way just so they can be included in the conversation? Now, granted, I don't think that's going to happen to a large degree. I don't think people work that way.
Yeah.
But I think the way the Academy is setting it up is, like you said, it is at its base.
It's being given to you.
It's racist.
You're not earning it.
It's sexist. It's homophobic.
Yeah.
It is everything that you're trying to deny yourself that you are. And the problem is the more you underline and underscore that these are the things that make you inclusive, that these are the things that make you special, it again is drawing attention to the wrong thing, which is not their individual talent, not their individual artistic ability. It is drawing it to, you're only here and you're only noteworthy because you're this token person. Thank you for being that for us so we can get a Best Picture winner. And I think that's just dead wrong.
That's worse than to me than not including them at all, because it's like your only purpose is to gain us notoriety.
Yeah.
It's like, how is that any better?
And that's the thing. I mean, other than and literally the hashtags, Oscar so white and all of these inclusive, naysayers, and it's like at the end of the day, I don't think any one of those with the loudest voice actually create or make up a majority of the people who work in Hollywood. You look at all the fundamental people behind the scenes, the executives. You look at all of the people who are just blue-collar workers actually going and doing their job day in and day out in Hollywood, and I don't think they even compare to the people who have the millions of Twitter followers that are saying that these controversies exist. And most of the time it's like, no, there could be gay people on the sidelines that just don't happen to use that as a reason why they stand out. There could be trans people who go to work every day and they don't look at it as an identifier as, oh, this is what makes me special. They want to be treated normally. They want to be treated, without all of this.
Treated as equal.
They
don't want to be treated differently, like
just because of this thing that they consider to be underrepresented.
The fight is supposed to be for equality. They don't want to be like singled out.
A charity case.
Yeah.
Because that's what this looks like to me. It's like it's a handout. It's like,
it
okay,
is.
You're part of this group that's so-called underrepresented, so here, we're throwing you a bone.
Yeah.
We're giving you a chance to get up. It's not your skill and your talent that's going to get you up here. It's us giving you this chance.
Yes.
By forcing people to allow you.
Well, I mean,
I'm just like,
that's basically them being the white saviors. It's like, well, I mean, it is.
No, it is.
It
Yeah.
is.
It is.
And they decry that too. But it's like, that's what you're doing. You're saying you're not good enough to get the Best Picture on your own. So here's this handout. So
we got to make guidelines.
It's
so
like
that. You can.
Now y'all have a chance. So aren't you happy that we did that for you?
Yep.
Like,
it's sad, but I mean,
condescending
I think
is what it is.
It's fundamentally, I think it fundamentally shows us the direction that the Academy is headed in. I don't think it's good. I think it's toxic, and I think that's just this whole entire culture we live in nowadays with regards to art and the cancel culture, and that if you don't agree with me, then you need to be banished. And I think honestly, sadly, the Academy has been non-relevant for quite a while now, and they're just heading into that territory even more with guidelines and restrictions like
They
this.
dig the hole deeper
And they're
every
just
year.
exactly, and they just keep digging, and it's just going to find their way into complete and total irrelevancy someday, and they're rapidly heading there, even before they hit 100 years. Sad to see that happen with such a rooted institution, but they themselves they believe in it. They believe they systemically don't deserve to exist, so they'll eat their own, and so be it. Let them. All right, guys. We kind of beat that dead horse.
Yeah, well,
rightfully so.
I think
It needed
it's
to be.
time.
Horses are
to-
underrepresented. There
Sea
needs to be
biscuits.
more movies with
We
horses
need
in
more
them.
sea biscuits.
I disagree. There are too many horses.
That's
Once we
true.
got to War Horse, it's like we don't need any films about horses
Okay, think
anymore.
about
Wow, I
the
mean-
riders of Rohan. Come on, there's plenty of horses.
That's true.
I'm thinking
We need Shetland ponies. There's not many movies about
Yeah.
Shetland ponies.
That's true.
that's very true.
Mm.
I would agree. All right, are we finally ready to move on to our
Yes.
unique
I think
weekly
so.
segment? And it's funny because this topic, I'm
It-
forewarning everybody, fits with something that happened before the show
I
that
feel,
I completely did not have any clue that it would lead into that. I had
read it.
no clue.
I thought it fit with what happened during the show.
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Mulan
Yes,
argument.
this is perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally.
Yeah, just pull it up. Pull it up.
Yeah, here it is. Let's get into our relationship segment.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above and a thing called love.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I was waiting for you to roll the headline segment.
Just out of nowhere, it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden it just starts playing.
There it goes.
Just
you
kidding.
get that wrong.
Not happening.
Yeah. So what is this week's relationship segment, Brandon?
Funny, we were already talking about it there, and it just happens to be needless arguments.
Like who was the original singer of Reflection?
Yeah, Christina Aguilera, and I'm
Yeah.
still, I admitted I was wrong, but I'm not wrong anymore. Okay. No, so I thought it was interesting because actually, it came to me from this past weekend. I was helping my brother-in-law and sister move.
Did you get into a needless argument?
Of course I did. It's family. I mean, but it was actually pretty funny,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was about.
They usually are.
It was obviously Chip and me.
Yeah.
And the fact is that we were complaining about a Saved by the Bell episode where, this.
Oh, I thought it was going to have to do with you moving.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's always in the midst of moving. I mean, you
okay.
got to entertain yourself. But we were talking about a Saved by the Bell episode where there's the No Hope for Dope, and there's a part
yeah,
where. Well, there's a part where they come into the bathroom, Slater and Zach, and they smell weed. And then I joked around about the fact that they used to call like weed roaches. And he said,
Well, they still
yeah,
call roach like
like a roach clip.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're still called roaches. Yeah.
So I said that to my brother was like, no, he actually thought it was a roach. And I was like, no, he's talking about the weed on the floor. He's specifically calling it a roach. He's like, no. And so I was like, I pulled up the clip and I was right. In this instance, I was right.
You would have been right.
Well,
Yeah. So I pulled it up just to prove my point. And sure enough, it was like, he was just like, trying to deny it.
Your brother doesn't know weed terminology, man. Okay.
I know. It's just, he's so
He
above
gets a
that.
rival, but he doesn't get saved by the bell.
But see, that's
Look,
the thing.
Brandon may not have a microchip, but he knows his drugs.
That's right. That's my specialty, okay? He's book smarts, I'm street smarts. All right? That's how it works.
That's fair.
But no, so that it was funny because afterward, my brother was like, he's like, you should do a segment on the show about like you should do needless arguments. He wanted us to cover specifically like that instance.
Yeah.
And I was like,
we just did.
actually. True. we did. But I was like, actually, it made me think. I was like, how many, in our own closest relationships do we actually have these?
Oh, the three of us do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And
the
it's
time.
kind of what makes the relationship go round.
Sometimes it's
Yeah,
fun.
sometimes
it's
fun.
fun. Sometimes it goes too far, but sometimes it's fun.
Yeah. And I don't even see all of them as arguments.
No.
Right.
Some
You know,
of them are
I don't know
just.
if I'd put it that way.
Some
Right.
of them are just lively, fun debates, and sometimes like we've seen today. Sometimes I I didn't do it today, but other people have. But like, I like to play devil's advocate just to see what people will
Stir
do.
the pot.
So
Yeah.
it's like, you
I know
did
that.
today.
I did.
And it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'll say something that like I know like is not what I think, but I just want to see how someone's going to react to it. Then I'll be
True.
like, no, I agree with you. I just wanted to see what you would do.
Yeah, no, all the time. And there are times where it pisses me off royally. I mean, there's been times where we're sitting here after the show and we're just talking back and forth, and like I know you're paying attention, but you'll out of nowhere you just be like,
Yeah.
and it pisses me off. But I know you're doing it. I know you're doing it intentionally, and I can take it as a joke. But again, it's like it's those little unnerving things that kind of add a little spice, a little flavor
Yeah.
to a relationship. And so sometimes it is like, I don't know, you kind of need it to, I guess, test the waters, to sometimes play devil's advocate, or even truly sometimes to be like, I wonder where they
Well, that's
really
how
do
you know
stand.
who your true friends are, because it's like
True.
you know.
Are they going to just walk away and be pissed?
Well,
at
then,
you? Yeah.
then they're probably
Then they're not a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
What about you, Sean? What about in your marriage?
That was actually just this week. Like, I actually had an email argument with my wife. Like, I was at work. She was at
never
she
had
was
an
at
argument
home
through
at
email.
work.
That's
before.
when you know
And it was
you're
like
10 plus years into a marriage.
Yeah.
You know,
When
I'm
you have
like,
email arguments.
we're trying to get some flooring installed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm emailing her and I'm telling her, okay, I talked to Lowe's. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what we're going to do. There's a way we can get the cost down, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling her the whole thing.
I love that you're typing. but
I'm
nobody,
typing it 'cause,
Nobody can
yes,
see.
nobody can see it. I'm
that
just
you're
Oh,
like,
wait,
typing.
no, they
Do
can't.
the
I
wide
got it
shot.
on
Did
the
you do the
wide
wide
shot.
shot?
because I'm typing it.
He's typing.
And I'm typing
It's
while
funny
I'm talking
he's
to her.
typing and there's a keyboard, but
There
he's not
is-
typing on the
no,
keyboard.
I don't want to really push buttons on that and mess up my iPad. But I'm explaining this stuff to her, and then I send. Then she responds, and she basically just says exactly what I just said. Like it was her idea. Like she's the boss and telling me that this is how it's
Well,
going to
she
be.
is
She
the
is.
boss.
I understand that to a certain degree. But I'm like, don't reiterate what I just said and act like it was your idea and you're telling me that this is what we're doing. I just told you this is what we're doing. So I responded back and I was like, you realize you just said everything I just said. I already know this or whatever. And then so she wrote something back, and then I mean it kept going, and it was just like eventually she got to the point where she's
I'm gonna
just
get
like,
the last word.
If you're gonna be a jerk every response, then I'm gonna quit emailing. And I'm like, well, there, bow out, why don't you? Because I'm just like, this was actually getting good. Like it was getting.
Well, what was the point? Was the point to win at that point?
I guess. I mean, the point to
I
me
mean, where did
wasn't to win. The point was just, this is what we're gonna do. I've already said it. This is what's planned, and so just go with it. Let's just do it. Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't need you to argue. It was like
I feel
she
you.
had
I
an
feel you.
argument.
He was like,
for
you need to get
every,
in that kitchen and make a
That's
sandwich.
Right. She had an argument for every bit of information that I was giving her, and I'm like, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, and this is what we're doing. Like I've already done it. It's done. And so it was a needless argument for sure.
Right.
But an argument nonetheless.
Did y'all talk about it later? Like after the exchange?
I don't even think we did. I got home and it was just like I acted like it didn't even happen.
Okay.
And so did she. It
Which
was like
most
there was
likely,
nothing
that's
different.
kind of the weird thing is men usually do typically forget about it because it's like, okay, it's done, it's in the past.
It happened.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like she's gonna bring it up some point.
She
Like-
probably
like
will.
She's gonna remember that
It's
you
like
all
me,
had
me
that
and you
email.
had it out
Yeah,
a while
yeah.
back, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like I don't
think about it.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, we've done it.
I
It's
think
settled.
about it every day,
You think about it all the time.
all the time.
That's because you're the woman.
Yeah. You're the woman.
You're
That's
gonna bring
definitely
it up.
that's definitely Brandon.
You're the woman in
I
our
think
threesome.
Brandon's the woman.
But
I'll
no,
be the woman.
absolutely. I don't. I just there's needless arguments in a marriage, and
Well,
but
and
they
even-
it's kind of like you said. It is almost like a test of the waters. I want to see, and I don't think in the moment I'm thinking this way, but after the fact I'm kind of like, I want to see what I can get away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see like how
far you can
how
push
far
it.
I can push it before she snaps.
Well, and I think it's funny because I'm like,
and she does the same thing to me.
right. I was gonna say there's a boiling point.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, and we were talking about like with the moving instance. I definitely saw it between Jeff and Amber, and there was like I think we went over to the old house to pick up. We had to break down these bunk beds, but they had already taken the tools, and Jeff underscored while we were there without my sister, mind you, of course, because I don't think he would have been this forthright had she been there. if he's watching now. But the fact is that he was just like, I told her to leave my tools so I could break down the bed, and they took them with her. And it's like, so then of course we get over there, and we're unloading that load, and of course we had to leave the bunk beds. So then we tell my sister that, well, we need tools to break down the bunk bed, and she's like, I thought you had them over there. And so sure enough, that just sends Jeff off, and he's like, no, I told you I needed them over there, but you brought them here, so I need them. Where are they? And it was a back and forth that I'm just like, we just need to break down the beds. Like, obviously, as an outsider looking in, I'm sitting here like, I don't care. Let's just break down the beds. That's all we need to do here.
Yeah.
But of course, totally different in their world. Between them two, it's like, there's other stuff, obviously.
One of them was right and one of them was wrong.
Exactly.
And they were going to find out who.
Oh, yeah. And they probably did later on that night when we weren't around.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, that's always the case. There's always this underlying, like, between the two people, you can sense, okay, maybe there does need to be some outside voice of reasoning, but you're not going to end up solving the issue.
Needless
You're just
arguments are always the best when you're the outsider, because then you could sit there and baffle at, like, why are you all fighting over
Yes.
this?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why Jerry Springer was as popular
That's
as
true.
it was.
Yeah.
Because everybody loves to sit in their living room and just watch
Like,
people
we-
go at
we-
it.
When
They're
you're in the middle,
stupid.
yeah,
They're dumb.
when you're in the middle of the need, like you're part of the person like arguing. It's like for you, you're like, no, I got to prove I am right. But then when you're like an outsider, it's just more fun because then you realize like this is dumb. Like why are you even fighting over this?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like let
like-
me grab my popcorn because y'all aren't stopping anytime soon.
No, it is. And then it's funny because it does become one of those things where you're just like, you brush it off and you're just like, okay, you got to move on at some point. You have to. Or otherwise, it does become like, it's going to boil over. It's going to get to a point. And then after just, sometimes it's a couple hours, sometimes a couple days. And then you realize, okay, that was stupid. That was dumb. We shouldn't have argued about that. And that's when you realize the resolve, the testing of the resolve. And it's just like, okay, if you can, as long as you can resolve it peacefully, then like you said, you know the strength of the ties that bind. And that's ultimately what's most important.
Yes. That's a nice sentiment.
Yeah.
There you go. I was trying
Waiting for
to.
Keith to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swear.
My favorite is the though.
Huh.
That's a
Huh.
I love
That's
it.
the one. That's
Yeah.
the one that gets me.
Yeah.
I love it when you do it to other people. I can't stand it
When
when
I
you
do
do
it
it to
to
me.
I love it when he does it in the movie theater.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
absolutely.
Like on New Mutants, there was one part
I
where he
did.
did that.
I
He
don't.
just
I don't remember,
just-
but I just remember doing it.
And it's
Love it.
so loud. But
yeah, he
it's,
does it really
And
loud.
I mean, it's in the most inconspicuous, like, you're not disrupting anybody, but in the middle
Yeah.
of nowhere, everybody's quiet, and you're just like,
Huh. The best one I ever did was Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Falling.
Yes.
When he drops that thing, and I was like, oh shit.
no, that was.
Because you knew
That was the best
It
one.
was so obvious he was going to kill that old man, and I was like, I had to.
That was definitely
I
the
think
best
that was
one.
the best.
Oh, by far. All right, guys. Fantastic episode this week.
Yeah.
Minus the hiccups there. But we are always happy that you join us every week here on the Red Moon Podcast. That's right. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m., YouTube and Facebook. And as always, you can check out our website, redmoonproductions.com, and you can drop us an email.
I was going to say, yeah, if
Old school
if somebody wanted to
email.
communicate with us, give us like suggestions or thoughts, like how would they reach
I
out
don't know,
to
it's,
us?
it's right
Like,
there at the bottom
yeah.
of your screen.
right here.
He
RM
touched
Podcast
it. Right
at
there.
redmoonproductions.com.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Right, Sean?
Right. Am I supposed to say it now?
Uh-huh.
RM Podcast at redmoonproductions.com.
What
I said it in
movie-
my radio voice.
Ooh, that was soothing.
It was kind of. I've had a
You had that.
That Halls.
Soothing
I've got a
voice.
raspy voice this
My-
week, too.
throat has been soothed.
I slept with the fan on,
rasp.
so I got a little sore throat.
gentle rasp in his voice.
Yes.
Not the full on like Christian. Swear to me. But just
to me.
Just the gentle.
Oh, that kind of hurt.
It does hurt. I don't know.
world.
They said like he lost. He lost his voice like after filming every movie because he did that. And I'm like, well, that was his stupidity because
Yeah.
it was not even
Yeah.
a good voice.
Talk about
But Nolan let
It
him do it,
was-
so that's Nolan's poor decision
It
too.
was an underrepresented voice, though.
Yeah.
it was.
I'll give him that.
It was definitely
But
uniquely Christian
We
Bale's
wouldn't
Batman.
we wouldn't have Swear to Me without it because I
True.
mean everybody just swear to me.
It's a beloved me.
Because it's just so over the top. Yep. I mean, great films, but I'm just saying that even the best film is gonna have bad moments.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
me and Keith have been talking. We want to review American Pickle next week.
We talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
We were
I
looking
dig it.
through newer releases and stuff, and there's nothing new coming out. And yeah, we could go back to the
It
Best
could be,
Picture winners.
and I know it's,
but-
according to Sean, you said it's like a hidden gem.
Very good.
It's very good.
But I was like, that's still relatively fresh, and it is one I think that's noteworthy
There's
enough.
nothing
to do,
worse than a
so.
bad pickle. I'm just saying. You need a
Very
fresh
interested.
pickle.
I'm interested
So,
in
okay,
hearing
well,
your all's
I think
opinions
that's
on it.
okay.
So,
I think we've decided then. American
Boom.
Pickle next week.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I got pickles. This,
if you
this week
got
from the grocery.
HBO
I like
Max,
Mhm.
it's on HBO Max.
Or if you get screeners.
Or if
Yeah.
you get screeners,
Yeah.
like the rest of us.
I have both.
So until next time, guys, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian
and
Keith Cheatham
we will see you
at the movies.
at the
HBO Max.
Eh.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.